Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues to talk about a very special and exciting program that we have going. My name is Mike Todd with the University of North Carolina's General Administration, where I work as Executive Director at the North Carolina Research Campus. I'm joined today by two fellow members of the program's leadership team and one PhD student who is embedded within the program. What is this program? The Plant Pathways Elucidation Project. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves before we delve into some details. Marianne?
Okay. I'm Marianne Lila. I'm the director of the Plants for Human Health Institute, which is North Carolina State University's presence on the North Carolina Research Campus.
Hi, I'm Corey Brower. I'm director of UNC Charlotte's Bioinformatics Services Division, which is a large component of UNC Charlotte's presence on the campus.
Hi, I'm Richard Lenchenko, and I am a PhD student at UNC Charlotte in the Bioinformatics Department. Dr. Corey Brower is actually my advisor.
And Clyde Higgs was not able to join us today. Clyde had a last-minute conflict come up. Before diving directly into the details of the program, I thought it might be helpful to say a few words about the environment which gave birth to the program and in which it is currently growing. The North Carolina Research Campus in Kannapolis was founded by David Murdoch, and it's a public-private partnership between UNC system universities, Duke University, nonprofits like the David H. Murdoch Research Institute, who's also represented here today, I see out in our audience, healthcare entities, private partners, a large collection whose focus is joint research in human health, nutrition, and agriculture. For its part, the University of North Carolina recognizes the unique potential of the research campus to make progress in issues of public health and workforce development in North Carolina. As such, there are research groups from 7 UNC system schools with expertise ranging from bioinformatics to plant bioactives, post-harvest technology, personalized nutrition, human performance, and on and on. We do span the spectrum down there. With that brief commercial out of the way, I'll begin to delve into the program proper. Probably a good place to start is just by asking our panelists, what is the Plant Pathways Elucidation Project? How would you define it?
Want to start off? No? Okay. Well, the Plant Pathways Elucidation Project is really the result of what the campus was founded to do. The campus was founded on the idea of doing research on human health and nutrition. And so a number of researchers from the various universities, as well as industry partners on the group and the DHMRI, really each brought to the table a number of different types of expertise. And as we were talking, getting to understand each other's research, really this idea started coming together about what do we really know about some of these pathways that lead to the important nutrient qualities that are present in a number of these foods, fruits, vegetables, things of that nature, that we know are nutritious, but why? How does the plant actually produce these phytonutrients? We know a lot about some of the model organisms like Arabidopsis, some of the big crops such as corn, rice, things of that nature, but many of these like berries and things like that we know are nutritious, we don't know as much about the specific pathways. And we were already doing some of the research on the campus in some of these crops. The first 4 crops that we've been looking at in this program are oats, blueberries, strawberries, and broccoli. Each are known for their nutritional qualities, but we wanted to dive deeper into the specific pathways that are responsible for the nutritional qualities in each one of these. And that's really how the project started. And so different groups on campus that were doing this type of research we started talking, coming together, and the collaboration just started, the pieces started fitting together at that point.
I think the key thing is that the campus really is all centered around issues of human health and nutrition and biotechnology. And all the bells and whistles to make science work are resident on the campus. So David Murdoch, who's the founder of the campus, firmly believes that science can do anything if it has enough money. And none of us argue with him. And he put us in this beautiful campus. You know, we were all recruited from elsewhere, and we came to this beautiful campus with everything, all the tools that were possibly needed and the expertise to solve these extremely complex problems of what does a plant make, you know, what are those chemical products that a plant makes, how does it make it, what's the pathways, the complex pathways and the enzymes and the precursors that lead to production of a chemical product, and then finally, what does that product do for human health? And these sound like very easy questions, and they're not at all easy. All of you who work in plant pathways know this. So this was like an ideal opportunity, something that we've all grappled with, to really showcase and use the campus to the best advantage by bringing together our expertise and using all the bits and pieces. We were founded, the North Carolina Research Campus was founded in 2008, which was the beginning of the economic crisis and all the federal funding drying up. And so all of our great potential, we kind of felt like, the state universities froze us on hiring initially and froze a lot of travel even. And so we wanted to do something to say, we're not going to put ourselves on hold while we wait for this. We're going to do something on a wing and a prayer to bring something together. And I think it's sort of amazing how quickly this program has come together and all the contributions that have made it real.
Speaking of the contributions, to be explicit, who are the partners in the project?
Well, we have a couple universities that are part of it. North Carolina State University is part of it. UNC Charlotte is the other academic partner. And we're fortunate to have some very strong industry partners as part of the collaboration. General Mills is one of the founding members of this collaboration, as well as Dole Foods is another industry collaborator on this project. We also have several other collaborators that are part of the project. The David H. Murdoch Research Institute is one of the collaborators on the project as well. Let's see, who else?
Well, the
And then-
significant contribution from GA, from General
Exactly.
Administration, was what really launched, allowed us to launch the project only a year and a half ago.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that really was what really helped the project get off the ground, and that allowed us to bring on a number of PhD students who have each taken different projects within this collaboration and allowed the research to really get started.
That's a great segue toward some of the other aspects of the program. We've talked a bit about the scientific. Perhaps now's a good time to talk a bit about the knowledge base
Yes.
Sure.
aspect.
When we look at the program, we really look at it kind of like, it may be a little bit cliche, but it works, the three-legged stool. And one of those legs, obviously, is the science of the project. Obviously, a very important component of it. Another component of the project is the educational component of the project, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But the third one is the knowledge base. We knew that this type of project would require two things. One, bringing together and assembling all of the information that is currently known in the areas of these pathways, of these plants that we're studying, and bringing that together and organizing it in a way that starts to show us where the gaps are. And we also needed a way to structure all of the information that we've been producing within this project as well. Now, we could just take that information, throw it into a database, and then base that on our knowledge of how we structure that database for querying it and that type of thing. But we wanted to go a step further because we knew we needed to organize many different disparate pieces of knowledge into this knowledge base to allow us to organize it and query it in such a way that we could generate hypotheses and really use it for asking questions. Question I get a lot of times, what is the difference between a database and a knowledge base? And basically a database stores data. It might be financial data, or it might be a number of different types of data, and it's usually set up to do a specific type of query to be able to return that type of information. It's kind of like you do a query in Google, you search for something, and you get pages back. Now, do those pages, does the return of those pages answer your question? No, it's actually going to those pages and reading the information is what answers your question. I like to compare it I like to make the comparison to doing a Google search and just getting those pages back to actually using Siri on your iPhone. You pull out your iPhone, and if the information and knowledge is stored in the knowledge base that Siri has, you actually get an answer to your question, not just a bunch of data back. So it's the difference between asking who won the Panthers game on Sunday. Well, Google will give you a list of pages that might have that information. If you ask Siri, which is actually a knowledge base behind it, Siri will actually tell you the score of the game and answer that question. And so that's what we're building here as a back end for this project, is we're building a knowledge base that can answer those types of questions.
One of the most exciting pieces of the program is the educational piece, the student involvement. Could you all talk a bit about how that's structured and what we've seen students getting out of it?
Will, do you want, go ahead.
Well, either way, I think what Corey just talked about, I think that really embodies why P2EP is such a fantastic entity, and why it's so difficult to, when you ask your first question, what is P2EP? Mm-hmm. How the heck do you answer that when we've got something that we've put together here that's got all these different components that you can't say it in a sentence what it is. You can't say it in a seminar what it is. And I think that, to segue, is what makes it so fantastic for the students, because students come into this program at all different levels of expertise, all different areas that they're interested in, and they all come out enriched in a lot more areas than they could ever possibly imagine from working in a single lab. So the way the program is structured, and again, it was launched just in spring of 2013, we hired a series of graduate students, some in the biological sciences, the broccoli guy, the blueberry guy, the strawberry guy, loosely, and then some knowledge base folks on your end. And each of these graduate students had faculty mentors. We gave them mostly young faculty members because we figured we're too old, but the young faculty.
No.
And then each of these faculty mentors and graduate students were surrounded at the launch of the program in summer of 2013 with a series of perhaps 5 different interns. So each graduate student empowered with 5 different undergraduate interns to help them to acquire the knowledge, to sequence the plant that they're interested in, to build the knowledge base. So an empowered graduate student at each phase of this project. How many people went through graduate school and maybe sat at your bench and your advisor would say, well, come to me when you have something to show me, and you don't know how long that's going to take or how frustrated you're going to be, and maybe no one to really mentor with or to learn from. But we're talking about graduate students who from the get-go, even though they're young 20-somethings, they have the opportunity to be managers of lab teams and to be interactive and to learn from undergraduates who have different skill sets and different knowledge bases than they do. We say in this program that, we're faculty, we're the old faculty, and then we have the young faculty, and we're jaded by the time we're faculty. You have these undergraduates who don't know what you can't do, or don't have any real feeling for what's not possible, and therefore they will suggest it and try it. And by golly, sometimes it works. So I think that's what's the key thing about this is the excitement that goes into this, the interactiveness of these teams where really, even though I mentioned the different levels of the old fogies and the young faculty and the graduate students and the undergraduates, it's all interactive and cross-cutting, and we don't really have tiers, we just have teams.
Well put.
There's a number of, we really looked at this, and, we wanted to give these type of opportunities at a number of different levels. And we knew that bringing this collaboration together really helps us with one of our key goals. We're part of educational institutions, and so we wanted to provide educational opportunities as part of this collaboration. And as Marianne mentioned, one of the key areas that many PhD students miss out on is this opportunity to learn how to direct others and how to manage a lab, which basically they get thrown into as soon as they graduate. And so this provides some of that opportunity. It also provides exciting research opportunities for undergraduates. Many undergraduates, especially when they start getting to between their sophomore and junior year, are starting to realize, hey, I'm going to be going out into the workforce soon. What do I want to do with my life? I'm studying something, but how much do I know about it? And this provides an opportunity to expose them to research and determine whether or not that is something that they're interested in. And not only does it provide them an opportunity and exposure to research, it gives them an opportunity to see what research looks like, both in an academic setting as well as an industry setting. We know that there's only so many opportunities to go into academic research. Many of these students are going to go into industry research. And so they get an opportunity to see both worlds and to realize that regardless of what they've heard about one or the other, they get to see what it's actually like.
And we started off again with the funding from GA, which really let us know that we could, open the gates and start this project. Then we began to get smaller contributions from locally, from businesses locally, from NCBC, from other entities, vendors at the campus, smaller contributions for interns, to help support interns. And our original idea is, okay, we're going to have graduate students, which were recruited nationally, the graduate students. And obviously the faculty members were recruited internationally. But then we thought, well, the interns would be people who live in the greater Charlotte area. Undergraduates who are coming back from Raleigh or Durham or from Chapel Hill, from the main campuses, and they're going back to their homes in the greater Charlotte area, and they will simply work at the research campus in the summer. We didn't have housing, we didn't have facilities to keep these students long term. We just thought they'd commute in. That was the original idea. The interest levels from undergraduates as they begin to hear about this it's statewide now and from out of state as well. I was on a conference call yesterday with Western University in California that want to send us several undergraduate interns. It's a nice challenge, but it is a challenge because then we do run into issues of taking care of the students, and how do we, transportation and housing and things like that, and money, of course.
Richard, could you say a few words about your experience, perhaps what attracted you to the program when you were recruited?
Absolutely. So the beauty of the program is the structure again. So as Dr. Brown was saying, the three-legged stool. To be honest, I think the educational portion might be a little bit thicker piece of that leg because it's structured in such a way that it's really supporting any of the students that are involved in it, whether they be graduate students or the undergraduate students. When I was approached by Dr. Brower's group to join the program, I was very intrigued by the idea of going from one section of science to the other. So connecting all the information about plants to human health. Again, that's kind of what the North Carolina Research Campus was founded on, and it was really interesting to see how that would go together. And that's part of actually what I'm working on for my research is looking at all the different effects of phytochemicals and their effects in human health. So I found that to be very, very intriguing. And the program itself, it creates a lot of opportunity for the students. One of the cool things about it is networking. So networking is not always an easy thing as a student, especially as an undergrad. It gets a little bit easier when you're a graduate student, but you don't necessarily always have time for it as a graduate student. The beauty of it is you are allowed to speak with not just academic leaders, but also industry leaders. So we're able to talk to people from General Mills, like Eric Jackson, people from Dole, and really anybody else that's included in the program. It really helps to create collaboration. So even between different universities, I'd never known anybody from NC State until I joined the program. Now I have a few friends that are PhD students from NC State that I'm able to converse with about different scientific topics, about the program itself, about the leadership team, all the good stuff. But it really gives us an opportunity to find people to collaborate with later, and also opens up the job opportunities for us later as well. So that's a really kind of a key aspect of the program.
You know what we did? Kind of sounds corny, but teams are everything here. Teams are what make this work. The juxtaposition of different kinds of ideas and people feeling comfortable with each other and willing to share, and not feeling that, oh, I'm an undergraduate, I can't speak to the graduate student. And you know, they had to be able to do this. So the first thing we do, we've done 2 summers now, 2 summer sessions of P2EP. We have the first week where they actually build their teams, where they actually take not personality tests, but what do you call those?
Assessments.
Personality
It is a
assessments. Well, sort of,
personality
yeah.
assessment.
You know,
Yeah.
are you an
Yeah.
A type? Are you a B type? Those kind of things where they do a lot of interactive work there. And then the last day of the first week, we take them all to the Whitewater Center. And they have to whitewater raft together.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, talk about forming teams and, you know, getting to know each other, falling out of boats together, falling out of rafts together, and fearing for your life. It makes a big difference in feeling comfortable to collaborate then, and feeling like you can really share.
We've mentioned the private partners and the advantages of having students interact with industry researchers. Let's drill down a little bit on the private partner involvement. What are they getting out of being involved in P2EP?
I think, well, one of the things really driving this, and I think a number of industries have been realizing this. You know, we heard in the first talk, we heard about pharmaceuticals, and that's actually where my background is. I originally came from Pfizer before I joined the research campus and UNC Charlotte. And there came a point in pharmaceutical research really where realized that the main source of the IP was the IP around small molecules, and all of, you know, or most of the work that was done before that, a lot of it was pre-competitive, and you know, most of the industries, or most of the companies, you know, in the industry were really just reinventing the wheel at every site, and a lot of that work could be a lot more efficient if there was openness and working together pre-competitively, and realizing what really came before that point where IP needed to be secured, and working on that collaboratively. And then, of course, once you get to the point where you need to secure your IP, that's really where your value is. Well, other industries are realizing this too, I believe, and realizing that there's an awful lot that can be done pre-competitively and collaboratively with other industries, other academic partners, things of that nature. And for example, a lot of the work that we're doing in P2EP on these various plants, we're developing a lot of genomic tools. You know, we talk about figuring out and elucidating these pathways. Well, one of the precursors to that is getting a lot better understanding of the genome as a whole so that we can identify the genes, enzymes, proteins involved in each one of these pathways. Our industry partners are very interested in this, and they can use, all of them can use this information then that we're developing pre-competitively. Now they may have their own proprietary strains of each one of these different crops. They can use the genomic tools that are being developed here and then bring those back to their own breeding programs and use some of those tools to then help better their own proprietary strains. And so pre-competitively, we're developing things like genetic maps, we're developing sequences of the genomes, identifying a lot of these various pathway components, but they can then bring that back and make their own products that much better, more nutritious, bring some of these benefits that we're finding within this program to the market quicker. And so that's really some of the value that our private partners are getting out of this program.
Could I ask a question?
Certainly.
I would be very curious to hear about, hearing about the tools is really interesting, but could we hear about some of the specific discoveries you're making? I think this is a fantastic process, but let's get into some of the stories of what's really going on in the labs now. Is that okay?
Sure. What would be a snapshot of some of the progress to date? Would that be a fair question?
Great.
Okay.
How many publications are close?
Let's see, we've had publications in blueberry as the,
At least two.
yep, at least 2 in blueberry.
Well, three, yeah.
Oh, 3 now,
Yeah,
yeah.
well-
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
And we've had an overall publication that just talks about the program. We've got several that are very close to being published in oat. And I believe that there's at least 1 or 2 in broccoli that are very close as well. A lot of what we've spent time on in the program so far is to really develop that foundation of genomic tools in each one of these plants. We've been taking an approach where we are using genotype by sequencing to develop very detailed genetic maps of each one of these crops. And then we're doing genomic sequencing of each one of these and assembling those genomic sequences and focusing specifically on the gene-rich regions. Plants have very complex and kind of messy genomes. And so what we're doing then is then taking those genomic scaffolds that we've built and using these high-density genetic maps to be able to attach those genomic scaffolds to the genetic maps. And so now we have sequences of most of the gene-rich regions, and now we're starting to look at various basically diversity panels and things of that nature to be able to start looking at where traits of interest fall on those genetic maps so that we can go from traits of interest through the genetic map to specific sequenced genomic regions. And that's really where we're at on a number of these crops right now.
What does the future hold? Where is this program going, in your opinion?
We made it modular on purpose so that, we start off with these 4 crops. Wasn't exactly arbitrary. I mean, General Mills is one of the partners, so oats is going to be one of the crops, like that. But Dole is one of our partners, and Dole is very interested in putting in modules of, guess what? Banana and pineapple coming up, possibly even starting this next summer. So we'll have to do some quick recruiting.
Yeah.
The more we achieve, the more the industry leaders who come and visit the program get turned on and realize the potentials that could benefit their own business models. And so that's what it's all about. We didn't talk about our symposium at the end. Did you have that in mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Let's talk
so,
about that.
the end of the summer, this last summer, we had a, what did we call it? Symposium.
Our summer science
Summer
symposium. Yeah.
Science Symposium, which was sort of a showcase for all of these students to present posters, interactive posters, not just standing by your poster silently, but really interactively discussing and competing on the kinds of information that they had just garnered over the course of the summer session. And we had industry visitors who were not previously associated with the program, but came to see what was going on, and then subsequently inquired about how can they build into the program.
So really, we're just at a stage now where a number of the students and PIs are able to really start digging into the data that's been produced and start looking at some of the pathways of interest. And that's where some of the publications that will be coming out soon will start focusing. The initial ones really did focus on building that foundation of genomic knowledge. But now we have those tools in place and can really start querying those to start doing what the whole program was meant to do, and that was dig into these pathways.
And if I might add, from an administrative perspective, now that this model has been somewhat vetted and validated, even though there's ongoing assessment, we like what we've seen the first few years. It's interesting to see around the research campus that other projects are starting to look at doing their own version, if you will, using a similar structure. So we're pleased that this has been a leader on campus. With a few years of reflection now, what would be some of those lessons learned or words of advice you might offer to colleagues in the audience, colleagues elsewhere, who are thinking about developing a cooperative research program involving students with private partners?
We made a lot of mistakes at first, I'd say, because it came together so rapidly. You know, I mean, who was really in charge, and where did we want to get? So I think we're getting better and better at that at this point. It's like, you know, kind of setting a pathway forward, empowering our faculty members.
Yep.
I think the first year we sort of designed everything and said, go with it. And the second year we said, okay, faculty members, you're going to design modules. And the student interns were not only going to work on group projects, but we're going to be part of modules that they could go through for training and learning. Everything from hardcore science, you know, how to use a LCMS, to patent attorney talking to them about, you know, issues related to some of the discoveries that they were making. So I think these are the kind of things that we've learned and we've structured, and each year we know more and more about how we want to do it.
I think probably the biggest lesson from this is how important communication is. Obviously, communication and collaboration is paramount, and it's one of the real strengths of the campus that we have there is that we're all co-located on the same campus, and we were able to come together and have that open communication, so that even like the first summer when we had the structure and we brought on these students, that first summer was a little crazy. We were probably just barely a step ahead of the students that we had there and planning out their activities and the research and that they were doing. But because we had that great communication, we were able to learn from it very quickly. And the second summer, we were much better prepared and had a lot more of that structure to it. But that communication has really been important throughout.
And I think it's safe to say that there's no such thing as too ambitious. The first summer we had roughly, I think it was 25 interns, the undergraduates. The second summer we figured we could take on quite a few more with the same number of PhD students, and we did. We basically doubled the amount of interns to roughly 40 or 43, I think it was, something like that. And at first we were a little worried once they were all in the same room with us, but it all worked out. We were able to quell the fear and teach them what to do and help them with us to make more discoveries. So there's no such thing as too ambitious. Yeah.
And we hired a coordinator. Boy, that was a real windfall for us.
That was big.
Ebony Waterman, and she's kind of like a den mother. You know, she's not herself a scientist, but she's the one who coordinates all the teams and really kind of motivates the students, and That was a huge help. One thing I wanted to mention is some of our interns, and this was part of the original plan, are coming from 2-year colleges, 2 or 4-year colleges, not research colleges, around the Charlotte area, like Catawba College and Rowan Cabarrus Community College. They don't have research facilities. This is and the students are stellar. They're absolutely stellar, the cream of the crop students. And this is an opportunity for those students from institutions that don't have labs, that don't have state-of-the-art equipment to plug in. They wanted to. It's like standing outside of Buckingham Palace. Please let me in. But how do they get in? This is an opportunity for them to get in. And we also rely very heavily on the faculty at each of the colleges from which we draw interns, because the faculty hand select students that they feel are eligible for the program. And they hand pick them, and they give us their best and brightest. And so we really do advantage from that. Please.
Yeah, this question may seem a little tangential at first, but considering you're talking about training young scientists, what would you say to young people who are coming up and thinking they want to go into science? And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a scientist myself who's recently left academia to change careers to urban farming. And I had a son, 17-year-old son applying to colleges, and he believes he wants to study science. And I have some concerns because of, funding issues, lack of PhDs in certain areas, and things like that. So I know it's a little outside the scope, but you could touch on that just a little bit. And anybody else presenting throughout today, if they have anything to add to that, that would be great. Thanks.
I think that is a key point, because we talked about the modules earlier. These modules can be this high-level stuff that you do that I can't even coherently talk about. And sometimes you're going out and you're picking blueberries because they're ripe. And you're out there in the field and you're learning about phenotyping those berries in the way a farmer would do it. And you're learning about what those berries need. So I think these students are not just sitting at computers. The first year they kind of were, because we were.
Well, they were a bit.
We
the
didn't
first
know what
year.
we were doing.
But,
But the second year, we got a lot more creative about it, and the students are really getting a feeling for different areas of research. And we have had interns that say, I was an animal science major, and now I want to be a plant science major, or I was this, and now I want to be that, based on the modules that they had no idea they were going to have a chance to touch.
I think a couple things is, as far as, someone who's considering getting into science, many in here I suspect are scientists, and what really drove you to get into science? And usually the key component, this is what I tell students in my classes too, when we talk about careers, is what do I look for, particularly when I was hiring scientists? What do I look for? Well, curiosity is paramount. I mean, if you don't have curiosity, you're not a scientist. And so that is probably one of the most important characteristics that we either look for or that they need to look for in themselves, is, are they curious about how the world works? And then some of the opportunities that we give in this program is they see how broad science is. They're going to learn about everything from bioinformatics, so maybe they're interested in research, but they have a real knack for computers. So maybe bioinformatics is a way for them to go, all the way to looking at genomics, looking at plant breeding. We've got a scientist who looks at post-harvest technologies, looking at how fruit responds to being packaged. And so they really learn that science is very broad, and there's opportunities for them almost regardless of where their interests are. So I think those are a couple key components as well.
I'd say don't be scared to join research, because a really great example of there's always opportunity out there to learn more, to do better. One of our interns from our first summer, he actually applied to one of the graduate programs at UNC Charlotte, and he is now a PhD student. So there's opportunity everywhere. You just have to really get engaged, and again, curiosity is key.
I think Richard's point is key. We need students to have an experiential involvement in a program. Actually do science, not just learn about it. Take an active role and find out if this is for them. And as Corey said, maybe something in the breadth of what they're exposed to will stick. Or maybe they'll decide this just isn't for me. And we need to be okay saying that's a victory too. Finding out what you don't want to do can be just as important. Thankfully, we've had far more of the prior category where we've had former interns applying and getting accepted to PhD programs, some that have expressed interest in coming back as a PhD student when we're able to include more. But I would agree that the experiential piece is just paramount. Other questions? I saw a few hands. Please.
Sure. Corey, your comments have triggered some thinking on my part. Could you offer a little framework about sponsored research? The type of sponsor that, financial threshold, for instance. And then
Okay.
looking at the survey tools of field work, doing any work with drones with your students.
So the first one, as far as joining the program and sponsored research, what we're trying to do is we're trying to structure the collaboration based on the NSF's IUCRC program. And basically the way that works is each industry partner that comes in makes an investment of 50 grand a year towards the program, and that then helps fund the research that's going on within the program. We've had a number of other groups that have, Mike mentioned a number of groups that have in the area that have donated to the program as well. We've had the Duke Energy Foundation has been a major contributor to the program, and they really like sponsoring educational opportunities, and so they've been a fantastic sponsor of the program, as well as a number of other groups in the area. We also now have had other groups express interest in becoming partners with the program and contributing to it to also help with those educational opportunities. One of the companies that we've been working quite a lot with on the project is a company called Linguamatics that makes natural language processing text mining software for the life sciences. And what they've done is they've offered some of their products at greatly discounted rates as their contribution to the program. And so we've had sponsorships like that in a number of different areas. DHMRI has been a great contributor to the program as well, and offering some of their services to help promote the program as well. And so that's a number of ways that we've been able to sponsor the research that's been going on within this program. Now, the second part of your question was, again,
On the drones, anything?
oh, on the drones, yes. So we haven't been doing that directly, but a number of our partners are interested in that type of work. There is a lot of research going on in plant breeding using drones and look basically to collect that type of field data much more efficiently. So our program hasn't been directly involved in that, but we've heard about, and our students have heard about some of the research going on in that area.
And going back to your comment about the NSF Golden Program, is that one you subscribe to? NSF Golden?
We haven't, we've been looking at the IUCRC program, and we aren't at the level yet to make that application, but that's one of our goals.
Well, wanting to be respectful of time, I notice we are at ours. Yeah, time flies. But should you have any more questions about this program, there is a pamphlet outside at the registration desk. Our website is p2ep.org. Or if you want more information on the North Carolina Research Campus, we can be found at transforming-science.com. Thank you all.